I just updated my team's operating system, and the difference is night and day. Before, they were using different AI tools, different prompts, and getting inconsistent results. And some content had my voice, some didn't. Quality was all over the place and needed some modifying in the for approval process. Now my team have what I call the Octopus operating system. Every piece of content that goes out sounds exactly like me, and it meets my voice and brand standards. They can't really make a mistake. So here's how I built an AI operating system that runs my content machine. Most business owners are approaching AI this way. They give their team access to ChatGPT or Claude and they say, figure it out. Well, what happens? Things go in different directions. Now, everyone develops their own prompts, different tools, different standards. You get content that sounds like it came from 5 different companies. And I did this experiment with my team. I let them experiment with AI for months. Use whatever tools you want, different approaches to finding my voice, removing formatting quirks, maintaining quality standards. Some of them are loading up my transcripts, some of them are loading podcast episodes, some of them are loading up my information products, some of them are loading up my book summaries. It was really, really interesting to see where they went. And I did this because I didn't want to be limited to the way that I use AI. And it was kind of like giving a kid a bike without training wheels. Some can figure it out, other ones crash. So I built from there what I call the training wheels kind of system, this AI management content machine. So remember when you learn to ride a bike, the training wheels just keep you stable while you figure out the balance and the steering and the pedaling. And once you've mastered the basics, you don't need them anymore. It's the same principle here. I created a section of my Hammond operating system specifically for my publishing team. We call it Octopus operating system because our content tentacles reach out on every platform. I've been teaching this for, 15 years, the Octopus method. And it is where with Own the Race course, you create core content, you publish it across multiple platforms. Well, we do that every single week. We put out content every week. We put out emails. We put out social posts to promote the content. In fact, if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, you should spend most of your time promoting the fact that you have that YouTube channel or that podcast. The podcast or the YouTube channel itself might get some organic traffic, but it's usually a conversion piece, hoping that you get a result from something. So every single phrase that I never want to see in the content is removed. Every single style requirement, tone guideline, technical details have been trained on my past best outputs, not just the average ones, but the ones that win, the ones that convert sales, the ones that bring my people. So even technical details like no M dashes and how I want it to communicate is all built into that, and it reflects back in the social media posts. And most importantly, it's using frameworks, because for many, many years I was just making content and I was just talking off the cuff, and it was okay, but it didn't do anything amazing. Along come people like Hormozy and others, and they use frameworks and go on mass, turn up the dial with the content and just blow it up out of the stratosphere. So all of our machine now has got pre-built prompts for every type of content we create. Different frameworks for LinkedIn posts, email sequences, YouTube video summaries, descriptions, podcast summaries. And each one includes an exact structure, word count, targets, engagement optimization, and they're preloaded with proof elements like testimonials. And so this is how we get the quality control. This is really the key piece. Every output gets automatically scored against a good result, a standard. If it doesn't hit the minimum threshold, it triggers a repair mode and tells my team what to fix. It identifies exactly that, and then they fix it and then run it again, and it comes back well. By the way, this operating system, it sits over the top of whatever LLM you use. It will work in Claude, it will work in ChatGPT, and because now my team have got these operating system, the systems and frameworks and scoring system built in, every piece of content from my team has a consistent look and feel. It sounds like me. It is the way that I would communicate. It's the framework I want to use, and we have this system. So we get a lot more leverage. And how we really got to this was through this sort of show and tell. Last week, my team and I, we got together. I asked them, show me how you're using your tools. What did you do to program it? I know which outputs are going well, which outputs need some work, because we have a for approval channel. And so my team presented what they've been working on and their different experiments. The inconsistency was the interesting part. Same team member, different prompts, completely different quality levels. And that's when I installed the Octopus across the whole team. I said, hey, here's the operating system. Upload it to your LLM. Tell it this is our new operating system. And the difference was fascinating. I actually asked them to prompt it to compare to what they had to this. And it was like this huge gap analysis and then upgrade. It said this is a vastly superior thing. This is an operating system rather than just a collection of frameworks or prompts. And the difference was immediate. Like suddenly everyone had the same operating system for content creation, same voice requirements, quality standards, systematic approach. And so now when I'm getting content from my team, I can't tell who created it. It all sounds like something I would have written, and often because it actually came from a podcast I said, but it's formatted and frameworked into a way that I'm happy with, because the system ensures consistency. So the content for us is most often a podcast extraction. We take that and then use that with the system. We get all the frameworks that put out the email, that put it on the socials, that write the description, that help label the hooks. And this is where it gets really interesting. We started adding automation on top of the operating system. So even for a few weeks before I gave my team the operating system, I made sure that my mentor calls automatically get processed. The transcript gets analyzed for the best content topics of things we've discussed in that meeting. They get scored, the topics get scored for conversion potential for mentor members based on what podcast converted the most mentor clients. And the winner gets turned into a teleprompter script. Ta-da! So then the Octopus system kicks in. Once I've recorded my podcast, it then takes the transcript from that, because often I'll put some ad lib here or there or tune the output to make sure that it's really sitting perfectly with me. And then it creates the social media assets automatically. And all of these have human in the loop steps. So the human in the loop step is I review the proposed teleprompter script and I update it a little bit if I feel like it. After I've recorded, I can review the transcript and make sure I'm happy for that to be what the Octopus operating system processes. And then when the outputs come, of course, we're checking those in the for approval channel and making sure that they are sitting well with what we want to do. So we don't need as much human power in actually crunching through stuff manually. We used to manually go through my podcast and look for things that we could turn into social posts. We used to manually transcribe before we had things like Otter. We used to manually put the stuff out there on the socials and, draft it as we went. But now it's automated. So what are the team doing? They're really just spending the time to run the operating system, get the best possible outputs, and then they do hand post them to socials still. We take the time and effort to do that. We hand update the descriptions. I imagine we could probably automate that, but I'm not ready to take a human out of the loop yet. I think AI still needs a helping hand. And we do use feedback loops to inform the scoring system to improve the future outputs. So I will go and update the prompt in the automation to say these episodes perform the best. This should get a heavier weighting in the score. So I record a podcast. My team gets pre-built social content that's already optimized and quality controlled, and then they go and post them. It's like having a content factory that runs mostly on autopilot, but everything still sounds consistent. This systematic approach to team AI management, it's something we work on exclusively in the mentor program. And because here's what I've learned. Most entrepreneurs are either avoiding AI completely, which I think would be a huge mistake, or they're letting their team run wild with it with no particular instructions, or they are automating everything to spam level where it's just, noise and garbage. Both of those approaches fail. What I like to do is make sure every piece of content is a bullseye. That's why I've called it the bullseye content system. That's what we've set up and automated. We have the Bullseye content system. We have the Octopus operating system. And this systematic approach works because you're not trying to replace human judgment. You're just enhancing with consistent frameworks. And remember, I'm still using my own judgment when I decide which podcast I want to make. If I don't like the output, I'm going to change it or modify it or move on to the next one. Now, in my mentor program, we do customize these sort of operating systems for different businesses. You create your own operating system. I'm not giving you a copy of mine. You create your own because you've got different voice requirements. You've got different content types. You have different quality standards and different things you're looking for from your content. But I did create a playbook for my mentor members to use, a very similar automation to what I use. I show them exactly where I did it and what to prompt it to get it working for you. And you just add in your own frameworks and rules. Coincidentally, this episode was the result of the system in operation because in a recent mentor call, someone asked me specifically about my AI content workflow. And it created this episode. But the principle is the same, whether you're using automation or not. If you have given your team AI tools, make sure you give them some training wheels until they master a systematic approach. I mean, we've been creating content since 2009 fairly consistently, but now it is easier than ever to get it finely tuned, to have more volume. I mean, in my results, the content output has probably doubled in the last few weeks alone, because that's the main thing my team do, especially now that I only really focus on mentor. My team literally can't publish anything that doesn't meet the standards because the system doesn't allow it. And I can focus on strategy and high-level decisions like coaching my members instead of editing every piece of content or checking every piece of content. Now, the bulk of my content and the episodes are driven by what is discussed in my mentor calls and ends up in a podcast transcript. If you're running a business with a team and you're not thinking systematically about AI integration, you are missing a massive opportunity. I'm seeing this roll out across all my mentees, and I think the businesses who figure out systematic AI implementation are going to have an enormous advantage. If you want to explore how this applies to your specific business and team structure, you're already generating a meaningful revenue, there is information about Mentor at jamesschramko.com.